Okay? We hope there's enough. We may not have enough copies. There's some more copies over on this podium over here. If you need the copies, and we're going to explain this in a little bit, so right on the podium next to the beam. And then it's going to be very important that you have the copies, the little worksheets we're going to use. And welcome everybody. So as people are coming in, I am trying to stall a little bit as people are getting comfortable. And they will roll in to our work. Welcome. My name is Andrew Ainsworth. On the flyer, I made a mistake on the little flyer that went out over the net, and I didn't proofread it well enough, and our last name was misspelled, and I responded to my brother Michael and said, "This looks great." I didn't even notice that our last name was misspelled. So Ainsworth is our last name. Comical moment. And this is my amazing bride, and here you go. You have one.
You got one. So I'm just going to introduce us. My name is Paulette. Okay. Andy and I have been married for 50 years. It's a long time. So everything that we're going to talk about today applies to marriages, and it also applies to singles. And we've experienced all of it. Okay? We have 2 children. Our son is older than a lot of you young people here. He has his doctorate in education, and he's principal of a very large high school in Napa, California. His wife is a school psychologist. Our daughter is married to a pastor, and they live in Washington State, and we have 5 grandchildren, 4 boys, 1 girl.
A little bit about us. What we have learned through our years of work, that for people to experience something for your personal life and learn something about you or your marriage, it's probably very important that you know something about us. And it's not so we're talking about us. We just want you to know we understand certain things. And Paulette, for example, has worked with women who have been abused, spiritually been abused, physically and sexually. When I say physically, I mean battered and beaten up in life. And through many circumstances, and of course sexual abuse, trafficking, and Paulette's been about 20 years now doing counseling and group work with women, and I'm just really proud of her. And given the size of this group right here, there's several women who understand that world. Quite frankly, which isn't talked about still in this world, is that a lot of men are hurt, and men are finally acknowledging, after all these years of work, men are confessing where they've been hurt as well. It's not just an issue with women. So we've been doing this work specifically for a long time.
Andy has his master's in clinical psychology and was in private practice for almost 40 years, finally retired from private practice. And we have our own nonprofit, and we work with a lot of pastoral marriages now. We work for our church, the Father's House, in Vacaville, California. We work with all their staff. They have a network of about 40, almost 50 churches now. We work with pastors of all of those churches, if necessary, if they need it.
So when they call, we go, or they fly into our home, and our home is an office as well. And something very dear to our heart. Is our pace okay for talking? Okay, slow down a little bit. Okay, so bear with us as we work on our rhythm, on our pace. Okay. And I hope we can concentrate if we slow it down. So one of the things I want to share with you that about us that is very central to the work we do. More importantly, central to who we are, and that's our faith. And we don't apologize for our faith no matter where we go. Many years in Mexico, deep in Mexico, working with leaders there, and the communities. Inner city, Oakland, California, which is a lot of work with gang activity, prostitutes, marriages, and domestic violence. So our experience, there's more that I won't bore you with. Some are saying, why are we here today? Why are we in Israel? Especially now. And it's very important we spend time on this before we get into the content. Is that better? Is that better? Is that good? Okay. I was walking yesterday. We were walking yesterday, and I was praying. And I got a picture in my mind for you. And I'm supposed to share it with you. And I think in light of what's going on today, and you certainly have faced a lot of pain since October 7th. We're keenly aware of the pain that has been experienced every decade for many years. In fact, generationally, Israel has suffered so much. We certainly don't perceive Israel as victims. I believe that would be highly disrespectful. I want to be very clear. Paulette and I don't perceive you as we don't feel sorry for you. This would be disrespectful. We honor you. And I was struck yesterday as I was walking. The two words that came up, one word is honor. And we want to honor you, every one of you, this morning. And I'll try not to have too many tears as I say this. We're very aware of what's been going on. War and trauma is very close to my heart personally. And the feeling is very strong. The pain that permeates Israel, very strong. And a lot of grief, as you know better than I do. And we just want to say we respect you highly. And we honor you highly. Just for who you are. In light of going down to Nova a few weeks back and praying around the perimeter, speaking to a couple of parents who lost their sons, as we talked, And really, I'm sorry, as we listened, a rabbi approached me. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "We're just here to help." And he said, "What do you mean? Where are you from?" And they said, "America, California, United States." And he said, "So why are you here?" And said, "We're just here to love people. We're just here to love Israel." Back home, our friends thought we were a little crazy. Paulette's not. I have a few loose screws, as we say in America. And I don't have any problem admitting that. And they're saying, "Why are you going to Israel? What's your strategy?" And we shared with them like we shared with the rabbi. And we share with you. We've come to love you. If the only reason we're here is for this morning, we're grateful. We're grateful. And we appreciate you and that we get to be with you this morning. And we hope to share just a little bit during this horrible time, especially since 2 days ago. And you know what can happen at any moment here. And yet you're here this morning. That's amazing. I'm a little embarrassed to say this. Much respect for where we live. If we did this on a Saturday morning and we were threatened around us, people would be buying groceries and hiding in their living room. And I just want to say I'm proud of you. I'm proud to know you. I'll take this a little bit further. The work we do relationally, especially now, we believe is very significant. Because when there's pressure, affliction, struggle, we find out who we are. And I think pretty much everybody in the room understands this. And it could be any affliction or struggle, pressure over a long period of time, including grief, including trauma that is chronic. It goes even deeper. And so the significance of relationship care in our world is much more important because we really do need each other. One of the things that I very much have that I really respect about Israel, community is so significant here, more than I've ever seen in the world. Our work has included, Paulette mentioned 40 years in private practice, 46 years in work in the field. I've never seen such a sense of community as we've seen in Israel. We've been here for 2.5 months. We have a couple weeks left before we have to go home. And I say that on purpose, that we have to go home because of the legal stuff. And we're looking forward to being back next spring for another 3 months and loving Israel. And I know there's several, and I'm not going to ask anybody to raise your hands, but I believe there's several people in here who know somebody who's on the border, up north, Golan Heights, Gaza. You have family members who have been injured or have transitioned to heaven, lost their lives. So we're very sensitive, very sensitive to this, and the pain that you feel along with everyday living. Many years ago, when I was a boy, and we're going to shift in a minute and clarify and get into the work, but this is all to let you know us a little bit and our heart for you. Does that make sense? We don't want to get up here and be a talking head and tell you what you need to do. We want to be with you and understand and love you well. And I'll repeat myself on purpose. I want you to know us so you can relax and know we're not telling you how to live. Okay? Ken? Okay. Now, when I was a boy, I was 13, 12, 13, and which was only a few years ago. I mean, a few decades ago, my bad. My brother was in the Vietnam War. And I was the youngest of six. And my mom raised us by herself. Back in that day, there was a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and she was very alone. The community rejected her. The church world rejected her because she was a single mom with six kids. My oldest brother went to Vietnam. He was a medic. And he had to carry a gun. He had to shoot the gun at people. He had to figure out how to survive while he was helping people and drag them off the battlefield. So he was a medic, warrior, if you will. So I was woken up in the middle of the night one night. In that day in America, if there's an injury or a loss or a death, taxi cab drivers would drive around with a Western Union letter. Repeat it? Sorry about that. Taxi cab drivers in America were given letters to deliver to dads and moms if their sons were injured. At that time, women weren't in battle in America or were drafted into the U.S. military. And I walked in, I heard the door knock, and I remember this as if it was today, as I'm looking at you. That's my memory of this. And my mom starts weeping and convulsing, shaking. And she handed me the letter and kind of dropped it. And I went over there and just a little guy and read it that my brother had gotten injured in Vietnam. And the saddest part of that, my mom had to cry alone. And we didn't talk after that about the injury. Our family, like many families, we just don't talk. We just don't talk about trauma. We don't talk about pain. We kind of are alone in our pain. And this can go on for decades, and for many it has. And I don't think Israel is exempt from that. Again, no disrespect towards anybody. I remember reading the letter, kind of dropping it on the table and going back to my bedroom and crying. My brother had gotten wounded by. They were in battle, and it was quite a skirmish. One of his guys was hit. He dropped his weapon, ran out to get him, pick him up, started carrying him back to safety, and was hit with a grenade. He went down, he dropped his brother, basically his brother, his warrior brother. And my brother got back up, picked him up again, and started carrying him again. And got hit with another grenade. So he had multiple injuries. Then two other warriors ran out. My brother was out, he was unconscious. He suffered traumatic brain injury. He was hurt. And they had to drag two other warriors went out to get him, and I don't know. I wish I could meet them. I wish I could meet them. And I don't know what happened to them. We don't even know who they are. But two others dragged him into safety along with that other man that ended up living, is my understanding. Why am I going here? One, to let you know with what's going on in Israel, very sensitive to it. And those of you who have family, I'm sharing this to honor you and respect you and let you know we're very careful in what we're sharing today. We're not bypassing the stress that you feel or the grief you're experiencing today. The other piece is that how do we deal with relationships when there is pain? Whether it's the trauma of war or just life pain accumulating. How are we doing? How are we doing? How are you doing with relationships? Whether you're married or single. Everything we're doing today will impact both. Single, married, engaged, maybe. Fun for you. Exciting time if that's happening. But what we're sharing today will impact wherever you're at. In fact, thousands of couples that we have worked with at this point, in our prayer work and just reading and just meditating, we have learned. We have seen married people are just as alone in relationships as oftentimes single people feel alone and not known. In fact, I'll say it like this. We don't see much difference between being single and married when it comes to relationship care. And some would say, well, that sounds crazy. That doesn't make sense. Because if you're married, you must know each other. Not necessarily the case. In fact, we know people who've been married 20 years, 10 years, 5, 30, 50, 60 years. Sorry, that was a little fast. And we start asking them about what do they know about one another. It's amazing how alone people feel, even though they've been married for a long time. We've worked with a lot of single people, men and women, Paulette with women, me with men. Same thing. It's amazing how alone people are. And that's where we're going to start this morning. So, alone. Oh, we want to introduce, before we get going, I just wanted you to, we wanted to take this very important amount of time just to share so you can know our heart a little bit. Okay? Now, Paulette's got some logistical things to present.
So all of our handouts are in English. And if you don't understand English, it can be hard to know what we're talking about. So if you have Google Translate on your phone, you can take out your phone, do Google Translate, take a photo in Google Translate of the handouts, and it will translate it for you, so you can read along in the language that you understand. So it means that you need to have Google Translate on your phones. It's pretty easy to use. You go to the photograph Once you open it, you go to the English to Hebrew or English to Russian or English to whatever language. And then you hit photo and take a picture of that, and it will translate it for you. Okay?
And we just did it with Michael a few minutes ago. If you don't have Google Translate, we're going to take a few minutes, we're going to pause and give you an opportunity, if you have your phone with you, or if you have a phone, to
download it.
download. So just take a few minutes. Kim? Turn music up just for a few minutes. Music, a little bit of music. Thank you. Kim. Just a few minutes. Take our time. Okay, you need more time? Raise your hand if you need more time. Okay. So, we are going to move into talking about the emotional cup in a minute. Yes, it says emotional cup on the front. In your respective language. And now before we move into that piece, thank you, Kim. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Want to go back to the idea of experiencing what we call aloneness, or feeling alone in life, being alone in life, relationship isolation. We can be in a group like this every day. And we can smile, say all the right things, and actually experience healthy relationships, enjoying life. But we can go to church every Sunday or Saturday or whatever your church day is. We can go to work every day. And when we leave that building or that school or that office, nobody really knows us. And that to me, that defines relational aloneness. Aloneness really isn't a word, but we started using that word a long time ago. We think it cripples relationships. Being alone cripples relationships. Living a life not really being known causes us to be more about, if I'm living a life of aloneness, the impact on me is that I'm going to be thinking about me more than anybody else. I might think about you, but if we don't really know each other, I probably am not thinking about you. I'm thinking about me. In fact, we work with a lot of people who quarrel a lot. There's a lot of conflict. Verbal conflict, rage, being critical, withdrawing, neglecting, because it's a way to protect myself. I'm thinking about my brother again. Michael is my brother's name, my oldest brother. His deepest friendships to this day are the guys that are still alive from the 101st Airborne. And they laid their lives down for one another. They got to know each other really well. And when they came back, they watched out for each other, even in the middle of their post-traumatic stress. But I'm proud of him. He got to know some guys. They got to know him. But I'm also sad for my brother, because he wouldn't let his wife in or his children in. They didn't know him. And so they were alone. And they've been together longer than we have. So this aloneness idea, where does it go? We see people fighting and quarreling by being passive and pulling away, or being very aggressive. Either way, I'm trying to get what I want. One man in the gym a few years ago heard that we do counseling. And he walked up to me. I was minding my own business. I had my earphones on. It's my safe place. I'm just trying, the old guy's just trying to get a workout. And he said, he interrupted me. And he said, I heard you're a counselor. And I have a question. May I ask you a question? And I was frustrated, but I was polite. And I said, sure, ask. And he said, I've been married 3 times. And I'm currently going through my 3rd divorce. What do you think? And I behaved myself. I was kind. I was calm. And when I said, it sounds like you're very selfish. And he got a funny look on his face. He wasn't pleased. And he turned around and walked away. I never saw him again. And that was really good, I think. I hope he got some help somewhere. And it's a sad moment. Why would I say selfish so strongly? There's and people, I don't know people here I'm respecting where you walk in faith, or you have faith in something in life. I just know my faith is in Yeshua. And I'm not going to preach at you. I'm just saying I'm respectful where you come from when I refer to a principle. In the New Testament, the book of James, he says, "Why do you fight and quarrel among you?" And then James has the audacity. Does that translate? Audacity? Okay. That's just a fun word to say. I'm sorry. James has the... We're working on translation. Awesome. Good. So James has the audacity to say, "Why do you fight and quarrel?" A rhetorical question. And he says, he answers it, the question, and says, "Isn't it because of your selfish desires that rage inside of you?" It's the truth. And our experience says it's the truth. And so selfishness perpetuates aloneness. If I were to ask you, if we went way back into what I perceive and believe is the beginning of time, I'm not going to preach at you, but there was a very special relationship that was created. But if I were to ask you, and I'd like to hear what you have to say, what on this earth, what is considered the first crisis known to mankind? What would you say? Speak up. What's the first crisis known to mankind? Good one. Good one. Anybody? Stop it. I wanted to say that. Adam being alone. And who said that? Right. Translator and scholar. Okay. Thank you. Yes, and historically, and brother, no shame, no guilt, because usually people say the fall. That's what we usually hear. And that's what we read. I believe that for years. Because it's right there. Now, again, I don't know where you're at. I'm just going to share it. Please don't leave. Please don't leave. And don't throw anything. Just kind of bear with me. Bear with me. Is that okay? Just bear with. Adam walked with God personally. Is that true or not true, based on what we understand what the book says? Based on all the book, I believe Yeshua was there and the Holy Spirit was there with them. It's the first small group known to mankind. Those four, what a small group. Or care group. Home group. So I don't think Adam had any spiritual problems. We hear people say a lot in different ways, all I need is God. God's got me. He's got me covered. We've heard it said many times, I don't need people, I got God. The entire book disagrees with you. If you say that, or you believe that. Adam had his personal relationships there. Spiritually, he was in great shape. Wonderful shape. No bills. No car payment. No electricity bill. No food bill. No problems. So spiritually and physically, beautiful shape. And then God says something's wrong. it's not good for man to be alone. Chapter 3 is before chapter 2 is before chapter 3. Alone and relationally isolated is a real thing even today. And there's all kinds of information attached to that. So we're going to move into what removes feeling alone, not just feeling alone, being alone, experiencing aloneness. By recognizing what's going on inside of our heart. If we get enough pain going on, building up inside of our heart, or our soul, our being, it's just a matter of time that stuff's going to come out of us. The problem is, much like my mom, who I honor, I respect my mom to this day. She's in heaven. In fact, I'll let you in on a little secret that has nothing to do with this lesson. That she was on her deathbed in cancer. And she was in a coma. And the doctor said she won't wake back up. And I looked at Paulette and our kids. And I looked at the doctor, and I said, we'll see about that. She was in coma for a while. She was out, ready to go. And I wasn't going to leave her alone. Are you catching that? I wasn't going to leave her alone, even in the coma. And we walked in, and she swelled. Just the cancer had really taken her body. And I said, Mom, you're dying. Wake up. She wakes up. She wakes up. I kind of looked at Paulette, and I didn't know what to do. I said, Mom, you're dying. We want to see you in heaven. She was very clear. And when we prayed, and she confessed, Lord, I love you, Lord. I want to go to heaven. This is her talking. She's crying. We're crying. She goes back to sleep. And then she passed. So even then, I wasn't going to leave my mom alone. And we're going to, there's a lot of backstory to that we'd be here all day if I tried to share it. But so I'm just letting you know a little bit more. The power of aloneness. In fact, I'm going to ask you a question. And I want to ask you to evaluate and imagine you at a time in your life. Now, this is very sensitive. And I'm asking you to join us on something. Your choice. Whether you're single or married. To imagine a time that you've already experienced. Imagine, basically get a picture of a time when you felt alone. Very alone. And people, and you're in pain. The only thing worse than being alone in life, especially if you're in intimate relationships, if family and friends everywhere. The only thing worse than being alone is being in pain alone. Truly. And in that lifestyle, because you got to protect yourself, I've got to protect myself. We just keep adding pain. And we keep adding pain, and therefore we're going to feel more and more alone. Who really cares? Who really cares? Who really loves me? If I'm not known, how can I be loved? If I don't know you, brother, how can I love you if I don't know you? Paulette and I, after actually September 1 coming up is 51 years, by the way. Yeah, right? 51 years. That Paulette pursued me. She ran after me 51 years ago and caught me. And yes, I am lying. Yes, I am not telling the truth. Yeah. So I'm asking you a question. Do you remember, imagine, many of you already have a picture. Now, if it's a big problem, you're married, or you're engaged, or you're with a special friend or something like that, and it's a grenade, don't share it. This isn't the time. Usually just kind of think back, maybe high school years, maybe middle school. Does Israel have middle school? Does Israel have, okay, middle school, it's called here? It could be before you got married, that you felt you were experiencing not being known. You were alone in your pain. Nobody knew. Nobody. And I mean nobody other than your Lord. You could have been, I can see a couple of people in the room, even standing right here. I'm not weird. I'm semi-weird. Not that weird. I can see a couple of people, you're in your room, and even today, people don't know, but you're in your room crying on your own sometimes because you don't feel known. That's called aloneness. So I know that's happening. So I'll just leave that right there. So I'm going to ask you to think about that, and I want you to turn to the, if you're married, to the person you're married to. If you're with your best buddy in life right now, turn to that person. If you're single, get with somebody else who's single next to you, or get up and move. And we're going to only take about 3 minutes, maybe 3 minutes on this. And Kim's going to turn on some beautiful. Thank you, Kim. By the way, thank you so much for doing the music. And take a few minutes and share what that memory was. All right? It's not therapy time, it's being known time. So we want you to go to that place.
And if you're the listener, all you're doing is listening and saying thank you for sharing. That's it. You're not adding anything to it.
Okay. If you're right in the middle of something real, heartfelt, keep on going. We'll start sharing, but you don't have to. We want to make sure your heart is ministered to. So, we do something very strange in every workshop that we do, or marriage intensive, which we're really serious about, or group intensive work. And that to describe what an intensive is would take too long. We ask for people to do this, even if it's just one couple. We'll ask them to go here. Now, why would we do this? To really set in motion this idea of compassion. The work we're doing right now, at this very moment, the last 5 minutes, is compassion work. I believe for authentic relationships to happen, there needs to be an embracing of what compassionate care is. I could spend 45 minutes talking about the meaning of compassion. And just talk. As it is, I talk too much. But I define compassion, and boy, I could be a wordsmith with compassion. We're absolutely convinced that when you experience compassion with a little story, a significant story, but a little story, and you experience compassionate care from a listener, and you are known 5 minutes or 3 minutes, the needle moves a little bit. You change a little bit. You may not identify the change, but when you start collecting these compassionate moments, you change. He says in one part of the book, he says, "Weep with those who weep." The very definition of compassion and perhaps empathy. There were some tears in the room. Compassion doesn't require words. And something happens when you allow yourself to be known and you're cared for. You change. The relationship changes. If two people are doing it, when Paulette is compassionate with my pain, I receive it, and I do the same for her, something unifying happens here. Now this could be in marriage, or single, or dating, or engaged. This is a relational thing. We don't do marriage counseling anymore. We stopped doing marriage counseling about 25 years ago. Well, wait a minute, I thought you were a marriage counselor. Well, we work with people who are married, but we don't do marriage counseling. We stopped doing that. We focus on relationship care within the marriage. I'm 100% responsible for me. You're 100% responsible for you. And we do this thing together. It's different. So I think I'm going to step out, and you're stepping up. Okay. Thanks.
So what we want to look at is the handout that says emotional cup. It has a picture of a cup with stuff spilling out at the top. The printer didn't pick up the spilling out very well.
We'll clarify that in a minute.
Yeah. So you may have to add some stuff here on your own. Does anybody need a pen, an ink pen?
Pen.
Okay, so what we're going to look at now is what's called your emotional cup. The emotional cup is a representation of your heart. It's just easier to look at in cup form. Everybody has an emotional cup, and everybody has all kinds of stuff in your cup. In the bottom of every single person's cup is hurt, sadness, and disappointment. Why? Because life hurts. From the time you're born until the time you die, we all experience different levels of hurt. Okay? It's just life. There's good, but there's also bad. There's some myths associated with hurt. If you just ignore it, it'll go away. Time heals all wounds. It's not true. Just give it to God, He'll take care of it. It's not true. It continues to stay in your heart, and it just piles up. And what we do is we try to ignore it, but it's not possible to completely ignore it. It hurts too much to go to that hurt. So what we tend to do is we get angry. I'm angry, it happened to me. Anger is a past-based emotion. It deals with the past, what's already happened to you. So, if I break my arm and Andy rushes over to me and he's going to try and touch it, I'm probably going to get really angry at him. Don't touch me. I might yell at him a little bit. Huh? Yeah. Andy brought up childbirth. When I was giving birth to both of our kids, Andy was being very nice, and he kept, it's going to be okay, it's going to be all right, and I was just like, leave me alone, don't touch me. It's kind of the same thing. The hurt hurts too much. We're going to get angry because anger's a bigger emotion. It's easier to get angry than to deal with the hurt. And then what happens is we become fearful it's going to happen again. Fear is a forward-based emotion. I'm afraid it can happen again. Okay? So now I have hurt, disappointment, sadness in my cup, and I have piled on anger and resentment. Then I'm going to pile on some fear. And through my anger and my fear, I hurt those around me, especially people I love. I don't do this intentionally. It just happens. Okay? So now I'm guilty. Because I did it. I was wrong. Along with that guilt is probably a healthy dose, or an unhealthy dose, I should say, of false guilt. All of the things we feel guilty about that aren't ours to feel guilty about. Your parents might have been arguing when you were younger and they get a divorce, and you as a kid, because children personalize, think, what did I do wrong? I must have caused my parents to get a divorce because I wasn't good enough. I didn't do the right things. All kinds of stuff like that happens, and that's false guilt, because it's not something that's ours to be guilty for. A lot of times people who have suffered abuse have a lot of false guilt. If I would have done this, it wouldn't have happened. I should have done that, and it wouldn't have happened. When it's not yours to feel guilty about. Okay? So we add some false guilt in there. And then we top it with a good dose of condemnation. And that one, you may not be able to see that, but that's condemnation there. I'm going to beat myself up because I'm a really bad person. Okay? I deserved this. So now my cup is pretty full, and it leaves very little room for positive emotion. Throw a healthy, unhealthy again, dose of stress in there, because look at what you're living in right now. There's a lot of stress to be poured on top of that. That's not listed in there, but we want to add that. Your cup's pretty full. Very little room for positive emotion. We were only created to contain so much. So then what happens? It's going to blow. And what happens is it spills out with a lot of symptoms. It can be as simple as just loss of concentration, maybe impatience or quick temper. You can have physical effects, sleeping too much, not sleeping enough, headaches, maybe stomach aches, anxiety, depression. It can be compulsive behaviors. It can be addictions. Because I want to soothe my heart, and I can use alcohol, drugs, pornography, social media, video games, computer, television. And what happens is I'm trying to soothe that hurt, that pain, and I become addicted to that. Okay? A loss of peace. There are so many symptoms. Okay? Codependency, controlling behaviors, insecurity. Those are all symptoms of what's inside. And what we tend to do is to focus on the symptoms. So many people have come to our office because of the symptoms. Can't you just make them stop? If you just stop this, we'll be fine. You may be able to muscle up and stop one of your symptoms, but you're going to get another symptom until you address what's inside the cup. I have to begin to look what's going on inside of me to take care of the things that go on outside of me. So what do we do about this? First of all, for the hurt, sadness, and disappointment, we grieve the hurt and receive comfort and care. And we'll talk about what comfort and care looks like later. but you have to grieve that hurt in order for it to empty out of your cup. If you look on the right side, it gives you the biblical antidotes to what's on the left side. The Bible tells you what's going to take care of it, but it takes people to walk with you through this. It takes somebody you can grieve the hurt with and talk to about it. It takes somebody to give you comfort and care in order for it to empty out of your cup. For anger and resentment, speak the truth. Ask for forgiveness and forgive. Takes people. For fear, reassurance demonstrated by committed support or needed change. Perfect love casts out fear. What's perfect love? Yeshua is perfect love. Okay? All these take people. Guilt. Admit you're wrong. Ask for forgiveness. Not saying sorry, because sorry kind of loses, it's a lost word. Sorry is what kids say when they get caught. Trying to make mom or dad not mad at them. Okay? So we want to admit that we were wrong. And ask, will you forgive me? With condemnation, truth comes against condemnation. What's the truth? When I start condemning myself, is that the truth? No. First of all, Romans 8:1, therefore now there's no condemnation in those who love Christ. Okay? That's truth. But truth is also, I'm believing some lies. Do I recognize the lies? Am I willing to hold my thoughts captive and tell myself the truth? The truth is, I might have played a part, but it's not all on me. I'm going to accept responsibility for my part and not take responsibility for other people's. So what happens is when we can empty out what's inside of our cup and begin to fill it with needs being met, which we'll talk about next. When our needs get met, you're pouring in positive. And when your cup is full of mostly positive, you're always going to have some hurt in that cup because life keeps refilling our cup with the hurt, but we're going to keep it at a minimum. If we can fill it with our needs being met, we have much more positive in our cup, and we're going to have the fruit of the Spirit coming out. Love, peace, joy. We're going to have the fruit of good things coming out of us instead of the negative. Now, when you're married, what happens is my spillage becomes his spillage. And I'm filling his cup with negative, and his spillage becomes my fillage, and we just keep going in a nice little unhealthy cycle. So the most important thing for each one of you here is to begin to look at what's in your cup and how is it coming out of you. Okay? And that's what we're going to take a few minutes in doing. If you just you can turn your cup over, or you can just write on the side, or whatever you want to do. Make your own cup. Okay? Make your own cup and write a few things. You don't have to be real comprehensive here. Later on, you can take this and look at what's really inside my cup. But write at least 3 things negative. We want the positive to stay there, so we're not going to really address those at this point. What are 3 negative things that are going on inside of you, and how do they come out? For me, for example, I might be feeling a little bit anxious just because I'm standing up here in front of a lot of people. And it might come out of me, if I'm really, really anxious, is I might just kind of start to withdraw, okay? Or I might stumble on my words, or not be real clear in my thinking. So that's just an example. I can feel anxious inside, and how does it come out of me? Be honest with yourself, because if you're not honest with yourself, nothing's going to change. Okay? So what you're going to do is, after you write your 3 things in your cup, pick one of those things, share what's in your cup and what's coming out of your cup. If you're married, with your spouse. If you're not, with people close by you. Okay?
If you turn your sheet over, literally draw a cup. There's something about it. And it's simple. Draw a cup and put your 3 things in there, and literally draw a line to how it shows. How does it manifest? And that, you talk about honesty. Self-honesty is very strong.
Okay, so we'll give you about 5 minutes to do that.
Thank you, Kim.
There's a couple of things I want to say, and maybe I should have said it in the beginning. If you're sharing, especially if you're married, don't personalize what the other person says. This is their heart, not yours. And sometimes somebody can say, oh, I'm just feeling kind of fearful. And we can think, oh, they're afraid of me. What have I done wrong? Instead of just saying, oh, I'm so sorry that you're feeling that. Okay? You can't take responsibility for their feelings. They are their feelings. My feelings are my feelings. Okay? Really important to recognize, because what will happen if I start personalizing what the other person says, there's going to be a fight probably sometime soon about it, and nothing gets accomplished. You're just mad at each other, and then you don't want to do this work because it really doesn't work. Because look what happened when we did this. So we want a compassionate heart for the person who is sharing. Okay? Really important to remember. Also, to remember that the physical, or the symptoms that come out of your cup are things that do hurt people. Along with your fear and your anger and your fear, your symptoms hurt those. If those negative symptoms do hurt those around us, and we need to be responsible for asking for forgiveness for those symptoms. Okay?
Yeah, we have a teaching on forgiveness. Symptoms hurt other people, and I'm responsible for that. And to acknowledge that I am wrong for how I have hurt Paulette is a very humbling experience. If you're interested in more on the forgiveness framework that we use, it's a whole hour and a half by itself. It's a very powerful experience. We're going to give our information at the end of our time to get today. And we'll, we can send you a PDF on the framework. It's significant to just leave the symptoms dangling out there and just talking about the hurt doesn't work either. So go back, I'm going to repeat what Paulette said. I'm responsible for how I address the hurt inside of me, irregardless of where it came from. I'm responsible for what I store inside of me. And very humbling to share, scary to share. Because if Paulette really knows what's inside my emotional cup, will she respect me? Will she love me? Will I chase her away? So what seems to be the easier thing is to hide. And we've already talked about it. Hiding doesn't work. And that's just the past. Doesn't matter anymore. Forget about it. Doesn't work. So it takes a lot of courage and a lot of humility to do what you just did. And then following it with forgiveness work is essential. It's essential. So I'm sorry we don't have enough time to really break that down. So I know that Paulette, I know what's inside of me, that's going on, but I know what's come out of me has hurt you. And one of the ways I hurt you is that I've withdrawn from you. And you may have felt unloved, uncared for, not seen, devalued. And I know my heart hurts for you because I did that. And I ask God to forgive me. Would you forgive me? Okay. So that's the language we use with when we offend one another. Again, very humbling thing to do. Now, before we have a break, we've had 2 exercises. Very simple. And if we had more time, we'd take longer with other exercises. Why would we do this? When we actually practice this, we're more inclined to do it when we leave. 1, we change a little bit while we're here. 2, we're more inclined to maybe follow up. So Paulette addressed this already. The aloneness conversation. We have a PDF on just the aloneness, feeling alone. If you want that, we'll just have to contact us. We'll get it to you. It's very simple. The emotional cup, we can send you more information on this. But again, taking this out and having lunch later and really talking further with your near one or your friend, your nearest one, probably a good idea. Your relationship will grow. You will grow. Okay, I think, is that it? And that's a real thumbnail sketch on the forgiveness. There's more to it, but time and all that kind of stuff, it's just reality. So I think we're going to have a break. And I think there's going to be some goodies back there. Is that coffee and goodies? About 10 minutes, 9.5 minutes, or 9.3 minutes, 9.5 minutes. In Israel time, that means like at 45 minutes, I think. But not really, not really.
אז לפני 11, ב11 אנחנו נתחיל, אז תכף יהיו שם כיבוד, יהיה כיבוד. שלום דינה. חד. אוקיי, חברים, בואו נשב. All the cafeterians. Let's sit. בואו נשב. אנחנו רוצים להתחיל. כי הזמן הוא מוקצב, אחר כך הם צריכים ללכת. אוקיי. כן, ממש מובן.
Okay. I was just going with the Israeli time frame. 9 minutes means 20, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, right, Pastor Michael? Yeah, you do remind me of Mexico. A lot of work in Mexico. When's church? And we never get an answer. We never get a time. What time? They laugh at us when everybody gets there. That's the way it goes. So I don't think you're quite that, but you're not that far off, I'm good with that. Okay, before we move on, is this making sense? Is this resonating with your heart? No, yes? Any confusion about anything? We're okay with questions before we move on? Okay. So is this landing in your heart? Yes, no? Okay, thumb over here, good. Nods, good. Couple nods. Very good. Okay, nod. I need nods or thumbs or something. All right. The insecure man that I am, I need some affirmation that we're doing this okay for you. So I just know how weak I am. Let's see. One of the things that needs to be clarified, and I'll start with this. Anything of value, and I mean anything of value, requires a lot of work. Do you agree with that? Disagree? I enjoy my wood shop. I'm an amateur furniture maker. When I say wood shop, it is a garage with tools in it. And I like finding old wood and making Paulette furniture. Because one, I value Paulette more than anything in this earth. I love her more than anybody or anything. I love Yeshua more so. I love the book more so. Therefore, I can love Paulette the way I love you. And I'm far from perfect. I have a lot of work to do. But my value for Paulette is so high that we continue to work on everything we're sharing with you. If we value our relationship with if you're married or you're good friends, this stuff, if two people are working on this, amazing things happen. We have material for singles specifically, and it's called Discovering Connection. And we work with men on this, small groups for men. And we work, Paulette and other women work with women who are single on this. And if you're going to get married, or if that's in your future, it's an amazing process of pre-marriage work. If you're single and just going to remain single, which is fine, it's an amazing work, so you're not doing life alone when you're with same gender friends, or a healthy small group if it's a mixed gender. So the work that this requires, it's just a lot of work. We've heard many times through the years, if we really love each other, should it be this hard? Should it require this kind of preparation and then sitting down and sharing like we're doing today? Does anybody want to respond? Yes or no? Is that a yes or a no? What do you think? Come on, help me out. Yes? Okay, I heard more yeses. I didn't hear any no's. If you're wondering about that, I encourage you to make a decision one way or another, and the fruit will show. When you drill down on your relationships, married or single, the richness in your life and in your friendships grows and grows and grows. I have a group of what I call 3 a.m. brothers. We work on this stuff together. Pretty serious men. These are real men. And strong, capable, strong-willed. They love the Lord, but they're pretty rugged. I call it edgy. And I probably am attracted to edgy guys because they're just more real, more authentic. And they don't hide behind a religious mask. And we do emotional cup stuff with each other. Truck drivers, carpenters, contractors, heavy-duty businessmen, lawyers, teachers. We do the emotional cup as a group of men and get real. We call it skinning it in America, or in our little group. In other words, being very vulnerable with other men, Paulette with women. I don't work with women, Paulette doesn't work with men, just to be clear. That includes what we're going to move into here a little bit on this relationship needs idea, which ministers to the emotional cup. Sorry, I started talking fast again. Pardon me. Got it. Forgot where I was at. So did I miss anything on that? Okay. When it comes to relationship needs, go back to the word work. Caring for one another's relationship needs. A lot of work is required as well. Well, Paulette, here's some myths. You have that sheet. You can Google that, by the way. Maybe you did already. Google Translate that needs sheet that you have with you. Do you need time to Google Translate that second sheet? There's actually a few sheets. Sorry about that. I just carried on without even thinking about that. So does anybody need time to Google Translate that second sheet? It says relationship needs. Okay, I guess we're okay. We experienced, I'm not going to follow this sheet just as it is. We're just going to share with you. We experienced people talking about a lot of myths. Paulette mentioned myths around pain and the cup in the last hour. One of the myths when it comes to relationship needs is that because if you really loved me, Paulette, I should not have to tell you what I need relationally. You should know. You should know. Yeah. Is anybody in here a mind reader? If you are a mind reader, stick around afterwards. We will have an intervention. Somebody just got finger pointed at. There's another intervention. So there's a couple interventions happening simultaneously. Sorry. Okay. So yes, if you really love me, we should not have to work this hard. If we really loved each other, we should not have to work this hard. After all these years, after half a century, we should know one another. Paulette and I practice this work faithfully, imperfectly, as much as we can, after all of our time together. Because I am not a very good mind reader, nor is Paulette. I can't read her motives. She can't read my motives. But it's amazing, in a lot of relationships, people are great mind readers and can evaluate one another's motivation and what you're really feeling. But I don't know anybody has been able to do that other than Yeshua and Holy Spirit and Abba. So when it comes to relationship needs work, we continue to work on this idea. We continue to work on the emotional cup. We continue to evaluate, are we really, how are we doing with our aloneness? After 51 years together, almost 51 years together. And I'm grateful that we get to keep working on this. And we find we're still learning about each other. In fact, I regret I don't want to say this out loud, because as a counselor guy, I should know better, but I mess this up all the time. I'm a pro. I've been at this for forever. And yet sometimes we neglect our relationship. Not all the time, sometimes. And our relationship needs change. Our relationship needs change. And if we're not talking, how can we know the change is happening? And we're going to talk more about what this means. Relationship needs, when we talk about the relationship needs, and we do an assessment, and we're going to have you do that in a few minutes. This is not a personality test. It is not a profile. So 10 years from now, you still have these same needs. There are many, many, many relationship needs addressed in the book, in his book, throughout. And we focus on 10 relationship needs and really narrow those definitions now down and define ourselves and share ourselves. And Paulette's going to say this, I'm getting ahead of myself. And so we can care for one another well. But there's certain things that get in the way. There's a few things that get in the way of us really understanding the value of relationship needs and how to give and receive them. You have a sheet, one of the sheets, it talks about obstacles. Did you want to do the obstacles work? Do you want to get into that? I'm going to hand this off, so you're going to move right into that? All right. So we're going to talk about, Paulette's going to talk about obstacles. Right before we do that, though, let me ask you this. How long can we go without water? Thank you. Yay. 3 days. Food? How long without food? Nailing it. 50. Oh, we got a 50-day one. Okay. Wow. We get by. I don't know. But it depends on where you start, I guess, you know. How about sleep? Okay. 30. You don't sleep. You ain't right. I ain't right. One day does that. One day. This is Knuckles. This is American Knuckles. Yeah, one day. Good. Okay. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Ken. What we see when it comes to relationship needs, that we will experience a failure to thrive relationally. But if I am an expert hider and I know how to do alone and nobody knows me and I masquerade, I might appear to be okay, but in private, we're not okay. And you know, those of you who go there, you know what I'm talking about. We're not okay. We just know how to pretend really well for a while until, as Paulette said, symptomatically, something's going to come out of us. So we say relationship need care. This is the ultimate compassionate care. It's fuel. It's medicine. It's hydration for the soul. In fact, we believe you won't catch this language. I haven't read this language anywhere. But when we are caring for one another through relationship needs, well defined and practiced, you're talking about change. It's amazing. And it's a result of incredible relational generosity. Please catch the language. It's not in any of your paper here. I don't think anybody in the room has read that anywhere. You may have. Sorry, fast again. You may have, but I don't think so. Generosity is applied to money, giving gifts, time. But when it comes to relational care, what if two people in a close relationship knew each other so well, which requires relational generosity? It just changes your world. What if relational generosity, that language, was you use that for yourself and for your relationship? Imagine that. And what would that really mean? The emotional cup work is part of it. Removing aloneness by knowing one another through the work we're going to get into in a minute. It's deep, good water, great water for the soul. Great nutrition for the soul, rest for the soul. When I was in Timișoara, anybody from Romania here? A while back, I was doing some work in Timișoara, Romania. I think it was Romania. We got out of the vans to care for the orphanage close by, and there must have been 100 kids, maybe. And I had the kids hanging all over my clothes. They're just grabbing it and wanted to grab a hold of me and stay with me because maybe what? Maybe I'd take them home, right? And then later I found out that's what they were saying. Kids of all different ages. I went into the nursery. I won't share how disgusting the orphanage was. It was in bad shape. It wasn't too long after Ceausescu. It was a mess. went into the nursery, which is about a room this size, close to it. There were about 50 cribs there. I remember the white cribs, white blankets, one nurse going crib to crib to crib, picking up the baby, holding, touching, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, then go to put the baby down gently, very gentle, it's amazing, and go to the next crib, and so on, 50 cribs. I stood there, I don't know how long I was standing there. To this day, it gets me. It started happening again. I cry a lot. As an old guy, I cry quite a bit. And that got me. And I just stayed there and prayed. But the saddest part of that scene, the saddest part about that experience is that the room was absolutely quiet. No tears. 50 babies and no tears, no crying. I don't know about you, but that's not healthy. Babies need to cry. They're talking. They need to cry. They must. Well, think about this. How many of us need to cry, men or women, or need to share our pain, need to share our hurt, need to be known? I'm talking about the word need, which isn't very popular because it implies weakness. But he says, Abba says how significant needs are. Just by the 59 one another's in the New Testament. 59 one another's. We're not even talking about the different stories in all the Bible. That's one another's, caring for one another. How I care for Paulette. Yes. One of my favorite marriage relationship allegories was the story of the Good Samaritan. Wait a minute, the Good Samaritan. That's a guy he tells of a story, who gets beat up, is ignored by some guys passing by, until the Good Samaritan, the Samaritan who was really the hated Samaritan, came and picked up the man, took care of him, got him to a safe place, made sure he was cared for after that. That doesn't sound like a marriage relationship. That would be not, that sounds strange. I would suggest it's a very strong relationship story, because do I see Paulette when she's in the living room on any given day, or studying the Word, and you're weeping, and you're needing to share, do I come over and say, how are you, Paulette? How are you doing? When you're hurting, do I lay my stuff down, and even though I'm very busy, I've got a full life, a lot of distractions, a lot of good things, and do I put that aside for my best friend and come across the other side of the room and give you care? And Paulette would be the one to answer that, because I can tell you a story about me and how cool I am and how good I am at this. But here's the truth. Paulette would have to speak to that. So the one another principle, the one another idea, the one another lifestyle, whether you're single or married, forever together or just brand new, I would suggest it's a requirement for you to thrive in life. No different than the babies. When we get all grown up, relationship needs are still there like they were for the babies in the crib. They're no different. Somehow, there's people in here who haven't cried for a while. I'm not gonna embarrass anybody, but there's some people in here who have not cried, but definitely have not cried with, had somebody, when I am crying, Paulette is with me. Does that make me less of a man? I would say not. Some would say, man, kind of weak, aren't you? And first of all, like I said earlier, yes, I am. I'm a very weak man in so many ways. And I need my wife to join me in my pain. And I believe you need me to join you in your pain. So the one another principle, is that definition coming through? The one another? Is that okay? Is that working? Okay. We're going to talk about one anothering in life here right now. We're going to take some time and work on your definitions so you will thrive relationally, married or not, single or not. Does that make sense? So we want, and I'll say this, maybe a teacher, office person, educator, business person. These principles apply there as well, because everybody in your life has relationship needs. You're not broken if you have when you express or start talking about relationship needs. It doesn't mean you need therapy. It means we're working on healthy relationship. Okay? All right, I think I'm done. You know what? I went over further than I thought I was going to go, so I apologize for that.
So there are some things that can get in the way of freely giving to meet other people's needs and freely receiving to get your needs met, which is what you really want to begin to work on. The first thing that gets in the way is self-reliance. Self-reliance says, if I had needs, I'd take care of them myself. You take care of your needs, I'll take care of my needs. We'll be fine. Okay, that's self-reliance. In a lot of cultures, self-reliance is looked at as being a really great thing. We're just a really self-reliant culture. We take care of ourselves. And that sounds like it's a really great thing, but it's not. Because it's not allowing our needs to be met, and it's not meeting other people's needs. Because if I'm not seeing my own needs, there's no way I can see Andy's needs. Okay? The second thing is selfish taking. Selfish taking says, I'm afraid my needs are not going to be met, so I'm going to take to get my needs met. But what I'm going to take to get my needs met. But what happens, it's like, say you really feel like you need a hug, and you hug yourself. Does that meet that need for a hug? No. So when I selfishly take to get my needs met, it doesn't satisfy the need. So I continue to take to get the need met. Okay? Then the third thing is self-condemnation. I feel guilty and bad that I even have needs, but I feel really bad that you're going to have to go out of your way to meet those needs for me. This is the person that might say they're sorry a lot. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay? They feel guilty about existing. Okay? We can have one of these hindrances. We can have a little bit of all of them. Okay? For me, self-condemnation was for a long time. I think I've gotten much better at this. But self-condemnation was something I struggled with for a long time. I grew up in a very abusive home. And if anything went wrong, us kids were blamed. If you wouldn't have done that, he wouldn't have. Fill in the blank. So there was a lot of accusation and growing up. So if something happened, it really must be my fault, because that's what I was told. So I come into adulthood, and I feel really bad for Andy having to go out of his way to meet my needs. And the first thing I had to do was, number one, begin to recognize my tendency. And then number two, begin to realize that it wasn't true. The thing about needs that's really important to remember is that they need to be freely given and freely received. I'm going to think more highly of Andy than myself. I'm going to recognize what my needs are. I'm going to communicate to Andy what it looks like to have that need met. And then he's going to freely give it. I'm not going to nag him. I bet your need 4 times this week, but you only met mine once, so I'm not giving any more.
Or well, WULL, wool. If you tell me what you need, and I give to you what you're saying, is that doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, because you told me what to do, so how does that work?
We hear that a lot. If I have to tell him, it doesn't count. Many times we hear this from women. I'm sorry. I just outed you, but if I have to tell him what I need, it doesn't count. He should already know. That again goes to mind reading. And I think that one of the most respectful things that you can do is to tell somebody what you need, and they do it. There's no question, you're not missing something there. So the key is to, number one, decide what your top 3 needs, and we're going to look at your top 3 for a very important reason. You're going to have some needs that are much more important to you than others. And why is that? Number one, God created each one of us different. Andy and I can have the same top 3 relational needs, but it's going to look different from me than it is for him. The second thing is your current life circumstances. With what's going on in the country right now, many of you might have a higher need for comfort or a higher need for security. Okay? So life circumstances can change. Needs are fluid. You don't just have 3 needs and that's it for the rest of your life. They're fluid and they do change. That's why it's important that we keep checking with each other. And then the third thing is your family of origin. Why is that? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting going here. Your family of origin. Okay? How you were raised. Were your needs met in childhood? If they weren't, there's so much pain attached to those needs not being met that when they're not met in adulthood, it's much more painful because it pokes at all the pain from the past. Okay? So maybe you grew up in an incredible family and your needs were always met. And then you leave home and you get married and suddenly some of your needs aren't met. There can be a high expectation and letdown when it doesn't happen, which causes pain. So each of us has our top 3 needs, You decide what they are. Then the most important thing for you to decide is, what does it look like to have that need met? I have a high need for acceptance. I know exactly where it came from. Okay, it's one of my missed childhood needs. Acceptance to me, when I'm sharing with Andy, acceptance to me looks like when I'm struggling, especially when I'm less than perfect, that you move towards me, that you tell me you still love me, even when I mess up. I have defined that need really well to Andy. And now he can meet it easily. He may even be able to ask me, how am I doing meeting your needs this week? Is there anything more to that need that I'm missing? Because sometimes when the need begins to be met, I realize, oh, there's more to that. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is, when he meets my needs, I'm going to be generous with my praise and say, wow, thank you for meeting that need. It really meant a lot to me. It's not a manipulation. It's acknowledging that I see what he's doing. I understand what he's doing, and it means a lot to me. For him, it says, wow, I got it. I can do this. Okay? So that's what, when we get into needs, this is a really important concept to remember. That it's freely giving. Okay? I'm freely giving to Andy. He's freely giving to me. I'm not expecting anything in return. Why is that? Because when I have expectations, I'm always going to be disappointed. I need to give my expectations to the Lord, allow Him to touch Andy's heart. Okay? If I'm placing all my expectations on Andy, I take the Lord out of the equation. Okay? Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. Okay? So, the next thing we want to talk about is the second page of that packet that we gave you. And this is really important, especially as we begin to talk about needs, as you begin to share with each other. It's something called healthy emotional responding. Okay? Healthy emotional responding is when I am sharing from my heart. Andy responds in kind. He responds from his heart. It's a heart-to-heart conversation. Why is that? When I'm responding from my heart, usually there's a lot of emotion in there. I'm sharing my feelings. I'm sharing what's going on with me. And if I'm sharing from my heart, I'm really struggling today. It was a really hard morning. It seemed like I couldn't do anything right, and I'm just really frustrated. And he comes back and he tells me,
What happened this time? What did you do?
misses the mark, right?
Oh man, can I keep going? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. What doesn't work is logic and reasoning.
Lecturing. You know, if I were you, I would have what I would have done in that situation is,
Okay. Criticism.
Again, you're hurting again. I thought you already got through that.
Complaint.
I remember the time when I was feeling that bad. Remember that? Man, yesterday I felt the same way, and man, it was miserable. And I tell you, I got a headache. I needed a 6-pack of beer. I don't drink, by the way. I needed, man, I know, I know what you're feeling. I got to go.
Neglect. That's just like I'm feeling way too uncomfortable. I'm just going to change the subject and leave. Spiritual pep talks, which we can all be very good at.
God works all things together for the good, You're going to be okay. God said.
I know that. I know that. What I want you to hear, what I need from you is to hear my heart.
There actually, some of you may struggle with that. Those of you who are saying, well, wait a minute, you're saying don't use the word of God? No, we're not saying that. But we're actually saying what he says. There's a proverb that says very clearly, being joyful or singing a song to somebody that is hurting is like stealing a coat on a freezing day or pouring vinegar on a wound. So well-meaning spiritual pep talks to try to make you feel good, it will not land, it will not help. It'll actually evoke resentment. And Paulette will feel like I'm trying to manage her, spiritually manage you. And I think we run into that a lot.
And even just pep talks. It's going to get better. It's going to be better. Well, I'm feeling uncomfortable with your pain. And so I want you to feel better so I don't have to feel bad. Okay? We can tend to edit one another. I'm trying to share my heart and you're pelting me with questions or telling me that isn't really what I'm saying. Okay? Or even using humor and sarcasm. Okay? I can tell you're struggling, but I'm going to make a joke so we all laugh and not have to go there. Okay? Those are all unhealthy emotional responses. What does a healthy emotional response sound like? I'm really sorry you're hurting. I'm sorry you're walking through this. I love you and I care about you, and it hurts me that you're hurting. Okay? That's a healthy emotional response. When someone is sharing from their heart, they need a heart response like that. If I'm sharing from my head, more logic, I have a problem or something that I need help with, and Andy gives me a heart response, he's going to miss the mark. Heart to heart, head to head. That's not to say that if I need a heart response later on, because when I receive a heart response, my emotions are going to calm down a bit. And later on, we can come back to the issue. And Andy might say, I noticed you were struggling, and I, really felt for you in that. But can we talk about it now? Maybe we can come up with some solutions or some help in this situation. Later on, you can address it from a headspace. But when the heart is being shared, it needs to be shared from the heart. Okay, I hope that's really important because healthy emotional responding is comfort. Okay? Every single person in this room, at one time or another, is going to need to either give or receive comfort. And if you don't know what that is, you're going to become very ineffective in caring for others. Okay? So knowing what healthy emotional responding is.
Let me help you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about...
One thing really quick. I'm sorry. Pardon me, Paulette. Bear with me just a bit. Forgive me for interrupting you. Here's one of the myths. And you might be thinking this. There's a couple you probably are. But that's just a guess. You know, that's just the way I am. I don't comfort. You know, I'm sarcastic. I laugh. And I know laughter is good medicine. Laughter is good. I avoid or whatever it is that I might do. And I've said it. I'm embarrassed many years ago, actually decades ago. I'm glad I learned. But we hear it all the time. And I mean all the time. That this is just the way I am. This is how God made me. We use a God card. This is just the way I am. And it's just not true. It's just not true because you're saying God's wrong. He's a transforming God. Here's a God moment here. Romans 12:2 talks about transformation. New Testament work. He's a transforming Abba. And he calls us to that. And he helps us with that. And so if you're one of those who says this is just the way I am, or it's the way God made me, I'm just, you know, I just muscle through, I just power through things, it's just how I am. I would suggest you get with a friend who loves you and cares about you and will tell the truth and challenge you on your thinking. Because quite frankly, I'll just say it in here right now, your thinking is off. And I know somebody needs to hear that in here today. I don't want to hurt you or offend you. It's really important you face that because he wants us to learn. And if you're in a close relationship, and that's what this is all about, is learning how to have healthy relationship, I'm glad I'm not the person I was 50 years ago. I know you're really glad I'm not the person I was 50 years ago.
But I'm glad that I'm not either.
Yeah. So change, knowing one another, knowing one another will bring change. In fact, I said it earlier today a couple of times. When you're experiencing the work we're doing, you're leaving here a little changed, and you might not feel it, but you are. And I can't measure it. I just a lot of hours of doing this. We've seen that, and we've heard reports on that. So hang in with us on that one.
So on the very last sheet, there's a list of 10 relational needs. Okay? And we're going to go through them and give you a description of what each one is. And what we would like you to do is for you to mark if that's your need. You're going to pick your top 3. Now, if this is the first time you've been exposed to needs, you may have a little bit of a difficulty recognizing what your needs are. Give yourself a minute. Think, yeah, that kind of resonates with me. I think this might be me. It's not unusual the first time many people hear this that they're a little confused about what theirs are. Don't quit. Keep it up. Begin to really think about it. Okay?
And we're gonna go through these with you, so you're not just left hanging reading these. We have an assessment. It's a 50-question assessment. It is not a personality test. It's an assessment, self-assessment that will help you. It's designed by our mentors to remove blind spots, so you can help you out with some definitions if you're struggling with it. So you're not left hanging here, okay? But bear with us as we go through. Pick your top 3. Put a little check. If you're married, it says spouse on the right side, I think. Does it on your boxes? And guess your spouses, just for the fun of it. If you have a good friend next to you, and it's a best bud, go ahead and guess. Put your friends there. Or if you have a special friend, try to guess that one. So we're going to go through these relatively good pace. Okay, you want to start or you want me to start?
The first one is acceptance. Acceptance is receiving others willingly and unconditionally, even when their behavior has been imperfect, and loving them in spite of any differences that may exist between you. Okay? You're accepting me just for who I am.
Opposite of that is rejection, right?
Yes.
And how many people that are close to us and that we know really well, we felt betrayed and rejected because of a certain skirmish or a conflict or something critical. The feel is real. The experience is real. It's not just a feeling. Well, you can heal from that. We can heal. That's where we do care work and connect with forgiveness work. Affection. Affection is not just physical. It's gently touching, initiating care, and it's non-sexual. This world, when we start talking about affection, oftentimes people think physical touch is equated with sexual. Godly affection is simply touch. And it could be physical or gentle words, kind words, caring words. Hey, I miss you. We have affectionate friends at home that are, especially this week, are checking up on us quite a bit. And we're getting a lot of love messages through WhatsApp. And it feels good. It is good. The most important affection that I receive is from Paulette, though, with kind words, respectful words, caring words. So it's words and non-sexual physical touch.
The next is appreciation. And appreciation is I appreciate what you do. Okay? Thanks, praise, condemnation. Thank you for helping me. I really appreciate that. Thank you for working so hard. You know, that's appreciation.
Go ahead and do approval and connecting.
Okay? The next one, and sometimes there can be some confusion with this, is approval. Approval is expressing or building up another person for who they are. Okay? Approval, your character. Appreciation, what you do. Approval, your character. It might be the difference. Thank you for helping set up the room. You have such a servant's heart. Thank you for setting up the room. Appreciation. You have such a servant's heart is approval.
Speaks to the character, right?
Yes.
That deep character of a person. Attention. This one gets a bad rap. Attention is somebody is kind of grabbing for, trying to get some attention. And we perceive people with attention needs as very needy. But attention, synonyms for attention are presence, listening. I call attention ministry of presence, especially for Paulette. When Paulette's sharing, I'm truly with her. I'm not distracted by my surroundings. I am giving you my eyes, my heart, and our time. I'm with Paulette. That's what attention is. I'm authentically with her, and she's with me. And I know where I can go because the American football game is on, and Paulette needs to share. We have to work on timing about that one. But something comes up. Am I willing to, back in the day, I got to turn it off. Now we can record it. Thank you, DVR recording. But am I willing to shut my day off and simply be with you, no matter what? So that requires a lot of work because distractions are everywhere. Okay.
It can also mean entering my world or entering Andy's world. He may be really interested in something that I'm not necessarily interested in, but I'm going to enter his world. I'm going to talk about it with him because that's what he likes and enjoys.
That's really good. I like that.
Okay? The next one is comfort, and we've talked about comfort. Comfort is healthy emotional responding. It's caringly responding to a hurting person through words, actions, emotional responses. It can be physical touch, just a touch here, a hug. That's comfort. You will, like I said, you will all have to, at some time in life, give or receive comfort. That's one that if our relational needs being more fluid, you have a death in the family, comfort's going to go right to the top. Okay? So,
Good. Do
comfort.
encouragement.
Huh?
Do encouragement.
The next one is encouragement. That's, you can do it. I believe in you. Urging others to persist, to just encouraging.
Now again, keep in mind, this is about you. This is not how you're doing it, not how you're doing encouragement for others. This is you're self-assessing. You're examining you. Okay, that's what we're doing here. It's not a self. It's what I need here. Respect. Respect is not a gender thing. A lot of men, the word out there in a lot of ways that men need respect, women need love, and that's true. But last I checked, men need love and women need respect, and there's a thing about that. Honoring. I'm sorry. Did I do it again? Man, you guys are fast talkers. I'm gonna. No. Maybe. I think a guy named John Gottman wrote something on that. He might have stats. But respect is valuing one another, honoring one another. I'm thinking of, in your definition talks about words, but I'm thinking of Paulette when, especially when I reflect on my brother or my mom or the work we do, my heart, vision. And Paulette, one, accepts, it's a need of mine, enters my world, attention, listens, leans in, but honors the vision that we work on together, but honors what God is showing me. I just feel honored by Paulette when she does that, and there's no editing. Where I come from, and I don't think I'm alone in this, is that at 12 years old, 13 is right after my brother was wounded, and our family, we had a drug home, and it was a drug trafficking home, and an abortion home, and a violent home. And so after 13, it was around 13, I started running on the street. That's where I lived. And I just ran. And that's when I started using narcotics myself. And I'd come home at night, and I had a pillow, I had a mattress, so I had a place to sleep. I eventually had blankets, and eventually had different clothes. But I was more respected out there than I was at home, and safer out there than I was at home. So the respect need that I have, along with affection, acceptance, and being listened to, even to this day, it's high. Now, some would say, well, aren't you, Isaiah says, forget the former things. Don't dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Well, many people use that to push away their pain, use that particular scripture, that context. He's talking about sin. He's talking about the way we're living and hurting God's heart in that context. He's not talking about woundedness of the soul. So it's very important that we make sure we don't minimize suffering. And I'm talking, we're talking 60 plus years now ago, and even today respect is high because I have some thorns in my side around disrespect. And I'm talking, I won't even spend time telling you the torture and the trauma of how violated a person can be, highly disrespectful to the soul. And it takes time, a lifetime, I believe, and I'll probably go to heaven with these thorns. And so respect is going to be a real high need. Am I dwelling on the past? No. Am I living in the past? No, I'm not. It's just, those are just hurts. And Paulette is the major soother of my soul by not racing around after me and making sure I have respect, but just as a lifestyle, knowing it's a need of mine as I've defined to her. Okay? Does that make sense? So just a little testimony. It's a big deal.
Okay, the next one is security or peace, and that's harmony in relationships. Freedom from fear or threat of harm through expressions of vulnerability. It's being vulnerable with each other, deepening of trust. Care has to happen first before trust comes. You care through meeting each other's needs, and that builds trust. And so that's a part of security is deepening of the trust and the successful resolution of conflict.
And then there's support, that I'm going to bear your burden, whatever it is. It could be a practical need. Paulette just might need me to carry something, and I'm going to support her with that, or to drive her somewhere, or to help you out with a project. Or how about she's hurting, and she really needs emotional support the way she has defined it, and she lets me know, so I freely give that to her. If you're wondering about freely giving, expecting nothing in return, this is counterintuitive. This will go against everything that we are about. But there's a little writing in the New Testament where he says, be more concerned about somebody else's interest than you are your own. That doesn't say marriage either. But I think it's a pretty good one, pretty good relationship word for marriages or singles or life.
It's going to be important for you to remember that just because we're married, Andy's not going to meet every single one of my relational needs all the time. Okay? He's going to be the most important person in this relationship, and God meets them all. He just uses people to do it. Okay? But you also have extended family. Okay? You have church family. Okay? You have work family. You have community. You're going to get some of your needs met through those different things. But the most important person to meet my needs is going to be Andy. Okay? But he's not going to meet all of them. So, as we went over these, did you recognize what your top 3 needs are? Okay? So now that you've decided what your top 3 needs are, let's take a minute and you define them. Okay? So, I might look at it, a way of really helping is, okay, say approval. I feel approved of when. And if I can answer that question, that helps me to see what approval might look like for me. Okay? So I feel approved of when Andy comments on my character, when he recognizes who I am as a person, not what I do. Okay? So that's when I feel approved of, then that helps me to define it. Approval to me means when you notice me, when you notice my character, when you comment on my character, maybe in front of other people. Okay? So I've defined that. So you're going to take a few minutes. You're going to define the relational needs, the 3, and then you're going to turn to your spouse or the person next to you, and you're going to share your top 3 needs, and you're going to take one of them and define what that need looks like and share that. Okay? Huh? Okay, so you're going to decide what your top 3 are. You're going to define them, what it looks like to have that need met. And then you're going to turn and share what Your top three are, and not just point at them and say, here they are. You're going to say them out loud, which is really important. And then you're going to take one of them and define it to the other person. Okay? Any questions? You're just defining for you what your need is, not. Huh? Yeah, you're going to define for you, and the other person is defining for them, and you're sharing. Okay? And you're giving healthy emotional responding in return.
I would just define your top three to yourself and then just share. Because you said that all three. You take those big 10 minutes for 3 days just to do all three. One just asks any questions for today. We have about 2 more minutes, and then we're going to shift.
Okay. How'd that go? Okay? So, especially in your marriage, now that you have defined your needs, what they are, and what it looks like to have those needs met, now you need to practice, practice, practice. Daily work on meeting each other's needs so that your spouse feels cared about. Okay, very, very important. There's some resources that we have. There are, if you go to relationshippress.com, okay, relationshippress, one word, .com. Yes. Okay. And you, in the, you know, the little spyglass or whatever it is where the search, you put foreign language resources. Some of the stuff is available in Hebrew, Aramaic, I guess, Arabic, and Russian. But they're different for each one, so you just have to look at the website under foreign language translations.
And they're developing. Our mentors have been working on this for years, so they're coming along. But there's some resources there. Are there, talking about aloneness today, and we'll get to the PDFs in a minute. Talking about aloneness today, your emotional cup needs kind of a broad stroke on forgiveness. Talked about healthy emotional responding. Paulette went through that earlier today, elaborating more. obstacles. Obstacles to self-reliance, selfish taking, and self-condemnation. There's a lot of information that went out today. So, are there any questions about what we experienced today together? Circumstantial questions we probably don't address, because this relationship thing is not about circumstances. In terms of I have a problem with my friend or my wife today, what would you do, Andy? I'm not going to even address that because I don't know you. But life, the concepts we're talking about today that do impact your relationship, if there's any questions about the ideas, concepts we're sharing, freely ask. We will do our best to respond. Does that make sense? Not addressing your circumstance of today or your problem that happened yesterday? That's usually a bigger picture. And if somebody is going to give you an answer, it usually will not work. So we stopped doing that a long time ago. We're very careful about giving advice, especially if we don't know you. And if we're not being, anyway, I'll just stop right there. So, yes.
How does it work? You couldn't hear me? Sorry. So regarding needs and expectations, you said that you don't have expectations from your husband, but then he's the closest person to you, so he meets most of your needs. So how does it come together?
Very good question. So if you want more, what we didn't talk about today was a relationship staff meeting, or marriage staff meeting is what it's called. And for example, if your question about you and your husband, if you wanted to walk through the emotional cup, you would make a copy of this that you have, or contact us and we'll send you a PDF for you to copy for you and your husband. And in the back sheet will have a guideline on how to talk about your cup and what's coming out, his cup. He would talk about his cup and what's coming out of him, and then how to care. The care work that we're talking about today. So what we say is that, how do we talk about this? We have a few things that we didn't cover today. We have something called an expression skill, which is when there's a conflict in your relationship or something problematic, it's not if we're going to struggle in our relationship, it's when we're going to struggle after all this time. And we have a framework that we use for preparing our heart to dialogue about concerns, how we feel, and what we need. And if you're interested in that, we don't have time to go through that right now, but it's a great framework that is very simple that you can actually look at with your husband and prepare so you can talk well with one another. See, if we're accepting one another, respecting one another, in other words, Ephesians 4:15 in the New Testament says, speak the truth in love to one another. In love, and that these things that we use, it really boils down to speaking the truth in love. It doesn't avoid the truth at all, but how are we sharing? So even going back to expectations, if we're sharing the truth in love, there's not a bunch of expectation attached. We're trying to understand. Usually expectations in a relationship invariably will become a problem. We're really trying to feel better. We're trying to be known. We're trying to be listened to. We're trying to have our heart understood. And that usually includes conflict along the way. Expectation when it comes to relationship care, usually means I'm not known, you're not known, I need to be known. And so I'm going to put expectations on Paulette to make sure she knows me. Now we're asking for a fight. So we use these frameworks, needs, cup, this expression skill, and we'll PDF you that if you want. It's, if you want, and it's a good framework. So I don't know if I responded. There's a lot in it. You got something on that?
I want to say also that I love Andy, he loves me. I want to meet his needs because I want him to feel cared about. He wants to meet my needs because he wants me to feel cared about. That's what the relationship is. And if you're in a relationship and you're the one giving to meet the needs and yours aren't being received and you've lovingly said something, my responsibility is my actions. So I continue to give because that's what God asks me to do. And it can be one of the hardest things to be in a relationship when you're giving and you're not receiving anything. It's one of the toughest relationships to be in, but all you can do is your part. And you can lovingly address it, and especially in a marriage staff meeting. You know, the questions we always ask in a marriage staff meeting is, how am I doing meeting your needs? And if we're both asking that, and it opens up dialogue to say, well, I'm really kind of, and instead of saying, well, you've been really horrible at it, saying, I'm really missing you, you know, and then going over your needs again, instead of bashing the other person with not doing it.
Okay, and I'm not, that's a lot. It's a big question. And it can lean into circumstance, so you have to be careful. Okay, now, did you give her our email?
Let me give you our email, because if you want PDFs for all this material, we do have one on aloneness, we have one on needs, the emotional cup, and forgiveness. So if you email us and tell us which ones what you would like, I will send them to you. I can only send them one at a time, because that's just how the software we have works. But it is BAM, like man, not BAM, at healed, HEALED, marriage, MARRIAGE.com. BAM at healedmarriage.com. Okay, the other is relationshippress.com. If you are, if you read English, there's another website with a lot of resources called relationalvalues.com. And if you poke around in that website, there are a ton of, they're all community-based, so they've taken the scriptures out, I mean the addresses on the scriptures out, but it's still God's truth.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. God gave me another word for you, and I don't think I shared it today. Yesterday was quite a day for you in prayer. And I was talking about respect and honor for you and how grateful we are to Israel. And on a larger scale, if we think about alone, where our heart broke a few years back, we've been working on getting here for a long time, doing our Jewish studies and doing all kinds of studies, talking to a lot of people about getting here. What does it mean to come and just do what we do, and loving you. And I hope you feel loved. I hope you feel honored. We hope you feel cared for and respected. And another thing that came to me that I didn't share earlier, I'm supposed to share it now. It's out of the Old Testament. It reminds me of Israel and everybody here. I'm a little embarrassed, a little sad, because America in the college campuses, some politicians, educators have come against you. I'm angered by it, quite frankly. I hope that's okay to say here. And it's it's a thing in me. It's a justice thing in me. And just want to share that with you and disclose that to you, because I respect you so much, care about you so much. And I'm talking years of praying for you and praying for the different people we've met the last few months. But he showed me something, a picture yesterday in that walk. And it was about this guy. And it could have been a woman, or there's several incredible women in his book. But this is a man named Shammah. And you may know the story. The people of Israel, the people of God, were just doing their work. And they're showing up every day. They're in the lentil fields. And I'm paraphrasing the story. And often this army of Philistines would run with their horses and their chariots and their spears and chase the people off their land. And please catch my language. Chase and threaten and assault and kill to take their land. And they, every time, would run away. Every time, get out of there. And then one day, Shammah, one of King David, one of his men of valor, and I believe there are women of valor. I love saying that out loud because it's not real popular. Shammah stood there, and he faced the Philistines. He faced that army, a big army. These were violent people, haters of people of God, haters of God, trying to annihilate them. And you catching me, right? Is it making sense? And Shammah faced them. He stood there alone. And I'm thinking of the world today, and I'm thinking of all the countries around Israel. I'm thinking of countries like America and other countries around the world that are leaving Israel alone. And Israel and you individually and collectively remind me of Shammah, because you're standing up. And I'm so proud of you. You're standing up and saying, we've had it. We've had it. And you're gonna stand, and you're resolved, and you're gonna defeat those who are trying to annihilate Israel. And Shammah did that day. And Shammah to me represents Israel today, and the resolve you have as a country, as a people, as a nation, people of resolve, warriors in heart. And I just want to share that story with you, because the victory's getting ready to happen. And people don't know that. But he knows that. Abba knows that. And if you're afraid or nervous about what's going on, remember who's got you. And you're not standing alone. You are loved and cared about. And there's thousands, millions of us out here who are fighting with you, alongside you, in the lentil field, if you will. Okay? Does that make sense?
Amen.
Okay, amen. We love you. Thank you for having us. God bless you.
Yes. I have one question for you. When you are coming back? Yes. מתי אתם חוזרים? אז תודה רבה. Thank you so much.